Welcome back. Today we're looking at a segment from Chicks on the Right about the controversy around the children's entertainer Miss Rachel.
Yeah, this one's a minefield. You've got a beloved kid show host, some really serious accusations, and a very energetic style from the commentators.
Exactly. And that style is really the place to start. So our first lens, tonal consistency and vocabulary. The whole point of the segment is to build a case that Miss Rachel is, dangerous.
A threat to kids, essentially.
Right, a huge one. But there's this major disconnect between that very serious charge and the actual language they use to make it.
Okay, but let me push back on that a bit. I mean, it's Chicks on the Right. The name itself tells you what you're getting. Isn't that informal, kind of rowdy style just their brand? Isn't that what their audience expects?
Oh, it's their brand, 100%. And look, if the goal was just to fire up the base, get some laughs from people who already agree with them, then, the script works fine.
But you're saying the goal here is bigger than that.
I think it has to be. They're trying to prove brainwash. They're talking about Islamic Nazis. I mean, when you raise the stakes that high, your vocabulary has to come with you.
Ah, I see.
If you're still using playground insults while you're talking about indoctrination, you don't sound like a serious critic. You just sound like a bully.
So the informality actually puts a cap on how seriously anyone can take the evidence they're presenting?
Precisely. It gives any neutral listener a perfect excuse to tune out. Imagine a parent who's genuinely concerned. They want to hear the fact, but instead of a serious analysis, they hear words like retard, chick, broad, stupid.
I did catch the R word. Shut up, Rachel. She's acting like a complete retard. That definitely jumped out.
It jumps out, and it does real damage. And not just because it's offensive, which it is, it's because it destroys their own authority. You can't claim you're protecting children while using that kind of slur. You basically hand the moral high ground right back to the person you're trying to take down.
That's a really good point. It makes the whole thing feel personal, not analytical. Okay, so say they want to keep their edge, but clean that up. How do they fix that specific line?
You just swap the insult for an observation about her competence. So instead of, she's acting like a complete retard,
Which is just mockery.
right, you say something like, she's displaying a baffling lack of professional competence for a digital native.
Okay, see, that hits harder.
Of course it does, because now you're questioning her fitness for the job. You're saying she's not qualified to run this huge media platform she has. It's still aggressive, but it's focused.
What about calling her a broad? This broad is making entertaining kids.
That just feels so dismissive.
And that's the problem. You don't dismiss a threat, you define it. If she's just some broad, then who cares? But if you want people to be afraid of her, you have to respect her power. So instead of this broad, you say this figure has a massive influence over early childhood development. And that immediately raises the stake. We're not talking about some random person anymore.
Exactly. And even the shut up Rachel line, it's just venting. It closes the door. A stronger way in is to analyze it. Try something like, her emotional defense appears calculated rather than genuine.
I get it. One is just yelling at your TV screen, and the other is actually taking apart her PR strategy.
And that difference between yelling and taking things apart leads right into the second big problem with the script. It's the whole structure of their argument about intent versus negligence.
Yeah, I really struggled with this part. Reading it, I just couldn't figure out what they wanted me to think Miss Rachel is.
Because the script can't decide. It jumps back and forth so wildly, and it just guts the whole brainwashing thesis.
Right.
On one hand, she's this calculating agent with a secret agenda, platforming certain politicians, engaging with specific news outlets. But then, in the very next breath, she's just an idiot. She's too dumb to even understand how TikTok works.
That was the part about her liking that awful comment, the one that said, "Free America from the Jews."
Exactly. Her excuse was that she didn't mean to, or she didn't see it properly, and the host spends so much time just mocking that, calling her stupid because she doesn't know what the author liked badge means.
And that's where the argument just breaks, isn't it? If she's so dumb that she needs to Google basic social media functions, then how can she also be this brilliant mastermind of political indoctrination? It doesn't track.
You can't have it both ways. Any skeptic is just going to apply Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice what you can explain with stupidity.
But wait, couldn't she be a useful idiot? Someone who's just so negligent that she becomes dangerous because other people can manipulate her?
100%. And if the script actually made that case, it would be so much stronger. But it doesn't. So the suggestion here is to split the argument into two separate tracks, just to make it clear.
Okay, so track one is the negligence argument. And track 2 is the malice argument.
Exactly. So first, you tackle the whole author-liked thing head-on, because that badge isn't an accident. You have to actively go into the comments and tap the heart.
You can't butt dial an author-like. It's a deliberate choice.
Right. So instead of just calling her dumb, you frame that incompetence as a disqualification. The argument becomes, if she can't even manage her own comment section, she is fundamentally unfit to be curating content for millions of toddlers. That's the negligence case.
That's a much lower bar to clear for the audience. You don't have to prove she's an anti-Semite, just that she's reckless with her platform.
Precisely. And once you've established that she's reckless, then you can start to layer in the pattern argument. This is where they bring up the 1 + 1 = 2 idea.
Yeah, they mention her having other controversial guests on, like Moats and the mayor of New York, and they ask, why are we doing that?
But just asking why isn't enough. The script just assumes that the audience automatically agrees that having the mayor on a toddler show is a bad thing.
Which their core audience probably does, but a neutral person might not.
So you have to connect the dots for them. Explain why these guests are inappropriate for that specific audience. Build the case. Frame the PNN interaction, the Moats video, and the liked comment as a clear pattern of behavior. Then the brainwashing charge starts to feel earned.
So it stops looking like a series of stupid mistakes.
And starts looking like a consistent worldview. Or, as you said, a slip of the mask.
A much more compelling story.
And way more frightening. Now, speaking of things that are confusing, we have to talk about how they handle evidence versus satire.
Oh, yeah. The Babylon Bee part?
The Babylon Bee part. So this is our third critique. The way the script mixes satirical headlines in with factual claims really blurs the line between what's real and what's hyperbole.
I have to admit, I did laugh at the one they read. Miss Rachel apologizes for accidentally spray painting go-away Jews, and the joke about her Nazi uniform actually being cozy long pajamas. It's funny.
It is funny. Humor can be a powerful tool, but in an argument like this, you're trying to convince your listener that specific, real things actually happen. And when you drop Babylon Bee headlines right in the middle of your real evidence, like the Palestine News Network clip, you contaminate the whole batch.
I see what you mean. If I'm only half listening, maybe driving or something, and I hear a Nazi uniform right next to Palestine News Network, I might just lump them both together as jokes.
You might dismiss the real thing as satire. Or even worse, you might think the satire is real, go look it up, find out it's a joke, and then decide the entire segment was fake.
And there goes all your credibility, gone.
Instantly. So the suggestion is really simple. You have to build a wall between the courtroom and the comedy club.
Separate the evidence from the mockery.
Yes. Present the hard evidence first, the Free America from the Jews comment, the PNN exchange. Lay it all out. Here's the file. This is what she did. This is undeniable.
Lock in the facts.
Then you can have a separate segment. Call it the absurdity of it all, or how the internet is reacting. That's where you bring in the Babylon Bee. That's where you make the pajama joke.
So the satire becomes commentary on the evidence instead of being presented as evidence itself.
Exactly. You just want the listener to walk away absolutely certain about what actually happened. Clarity is everything.
Okay, that makes total sense. But there's one more structural problem, and it might be the most jarring part of the entire thing, the end.
The ad break, yes. Our fourth critique, pacing and ad transition.
It was abrupt. That's putting it mildly.
It was a complete car crash. The script goes from screaming about Islamic Nazis and the brainwashing of children straight into an ad for delicious masa chips.
Dipping them in chocolate hummus. I swear I got whiplash just reading it. 1 second, they're filled with righteous fury. And the next, they're gushing about a snack food.
It's incredibly jarring. But the bigger problem is that it makes the anger feel completely performative. It basically tells the listener, hey, we weren't actually that upset. That was just the show part. And now we're hungry.
That's a cynical take. But yeah, I can see how someone would feel that way. It completely breaks the spell, but they have to run ads. How do you fix it?
You just need to build a bridge, a little cooling off period. You can't just leap from genocide to chips without taking a breath.
So what does that bridge sound like in practice?
Well, first, you just have to close out the topic proper. Acknowledge the weight of it. Say something like, look, this is a heavy topic and a really serious issue for parents. We're going to keep an eye on. Then a pause. Just let it sit for a sec.
Let the emotional energy come down a bit?
Right. Then you pivot. And speaking of looking out for your family, or even something more direct like, we need a break from this madness to talk about something good.
We need a break from the madness. I like that. It admits that the last segment was draining.
It shows you're on the same page as the audience. We're all exhausted by this. Let's just talk about a snack.
Could you even link them thematically? I mean, the ad talks a lot about the chips being healthy, real ingredients, gut health, all that.
Oh, that's the best way to do it. You create a link between the health of the mind and the health of the body.
Oh, that's really good.
You could say, we talk a lot on this show about protecting our kids' minds from bad ideas, but it's just as important to protect their bodies with real food. And suddenly the ad isn't an interruption anymore. It's a continuation of the show's core message.
It actually reinforces their whole persona as protectors of the family instead of shattering it.
Exact. It turns a potential negative into a huge positive. It makes it feel like they genuinely care.
You know, it really all comes down to trust, doesn't it? Every single one of these points, the language, the logic, the satire, the ads, it's all about why should a listener trust you?
That's the whole game. If you use slurs, I trust you less. If your argument makes no sense, I trust you less. If you try to trick me with fake headlines, I trust you less. And if you try to sell me chips right after a segment on moral corruption, I definitely trust you less.
So let's sum it up. The checklist for the rewrite. What is it?
First, elevate the vocabulary. If you're going to accuse someone of brainwashing, you need to use precise, serious language. Ditch the insults. They're dead weight.
Second, pick a lane. Is she malicious or is she just negligent? And if it's both, you have to clearly explain how one leads to the other. Stop just calling her dumb.
Third, quarantine the satire. Hard evidence goes in one box. Jokes from the Babylon Bee go in a completely separate box. Do not let them touch.
And finally, build a bridge to your ads. Respect the listener's emotional state. Land the plane from the political rant before you start talking about snacks.
The passion in the original script is obvious. The hosts clearly, deeply care about this. But passion without precision is just noise. The goal is to make this a clear signal.
I would love to see a second draft of this. I really think if they make these changes, that brainwashing argument could land like a sledgehammer instead of a wet noodle.
I agree. So, to the listener, refine the script, tighten these arguments, and send it back in. We want to see just how powerful this piece can be. That's all for this critique. Keep writing.